Tech Makeover, the podcast that gives you tips and tricks to help simplify and get more out of the technology in your life. I'm your host, Frank Bravo. Today's going to be something a little different. You've probably already noticed that this episode is a little longer than usual. I'm super excited to bring you a conversation with Jonathan Bravo, the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Fresno Grizzlies, a minor league baseball team and single A affiliate of the Colorado Rockies. And if you haven't put it together already, Jonathan's my son. So without that, let's get started. Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Dad. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. I appreciate you being here on your Tech Makeover to talk about technology and what technology has made your life simpler, both personally and as the director of marketing for the Grizzlies. So maybe you could just start by telling us briefly about what you do day in and day out and how you use technology in your world.
Sure, absolutely. So my main responsibilities with the team is trying to fill up Chick Chansey Park as much as we can on a given day. We have 66 home Fresno Grizzlies games every single year, but we also have a lot of non-baseball events as well, including our, world famous taco truck throwdown, award-winning tequila fest. Just really doing everything we can to help bring the best product possible to the Central Valley and to downtown Fresno. To answer the question about technology, I am constantly surrounded by technology every single day. I'm having this conversation with you on my phone with three separate screens all around me. I've got smart TV behind me. Like it's a kind of a running joke in the office. Not going to lie, I am the not IT person in the office. It's everything from running social media, the website, using productivity tools, and again, everything to really accomplish that common goal of putting on the best product possible for our team.
So to ask a totally self-serving question, you grew up with me always talking about tech. I mean, tech has been in our house since you were an infant. How did I influence your technology, and what did you rebel against in my advice? I mean, if we were talking to your brother, I know exactly what he would answer, but what would you come up with?
Yeah, absolutely. The list is kind of endless, right? Whether you're talking about my love for Apple products, is I think a kind of good one to start out, right? We've got that really great photo of me in our kitchen. Gosh, it was probably in the first house, right? Standing at the computer, at an Apple computer,
Yeah,
if
it's
I
a little
remember
iMac, I
correctly.
believe. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, that's kind of a thing. I'm very passionate about our marketing department, working on Apple devices, especially when we are so heavily focused on the creative aspect of our business. I always find that that's where we get the most output from for sure. My organization is completely digital, right? I have very little, I say I have very little pen and paper as I look around, and my desk is full of paper because we're 10 days away from opening day. But I use Todoist to keep track of my daily life. My inbox is my checklist kind of deal. Constantly striving for inbox zero, and just really everything around me is technology in one way or another because I find that it just really helps just streamline what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis.
So, we all download apps all the time. We use them a few times and we get rid of them. What are some hidden gems that you use either personally or in your job that makes your life easier, that you absolutely swear by, that you could not get by without having?
Sure. Yeah. First and foremost, Todoist, no question at all, which I picked up again from you. But
Actually, I think it might have been the other way around. I believe that you might have the story that I tell is that you found it somewhere along the way when I was looking for a way to keep track of projects. And you were like, hey, what about this tool that I just stumbled across? And I've actually told that story to the people at Todoist, and they're like, oh my gosh, when was that? And I tried to work backwards, but I
Mhm.
believe you were in high school when that started.
Oh,
So this
easily.
is at least a dozen years ago.
Yeah, no, I would credit it with getting me through high school, getting me through college, getting me through day to day. Like it truly, my life lives on Todoist to the point where we've onboarded our entire marketing team. It is our project management software. Like we truly, if it's not on Todoist or not in an email, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't exist to me. So definitely that, and then the very hot answer right now is ChatGPT, right? Which isn't a hidden gem by any stretch of the imagination. But when you talk about efficiency, especially this time of year for us as we're getting ready for opening day, if there's some very simple tasks that I can just offload and just have done and done well, then I will absolutely lean on that, both on the desktop and on mobile as well.
So you spend a lot of time with social media. So I wanted to ask you some things around that. So social media is everywhere. We're inundated by it constantly. And you use tech every day for marketing, like you mentioned. What's one tool or one trick that an average person can use in their life when it comes to digital social media and interacting with the platforms? It can seem like a chore sometimes,
Mhm.
but I'm sure you have found ways to make it easier, to make it less overwhelming. And whether you're sharing like family updates, or you're running a side hustle, or you're in charge of marketing for a minor league baseball team, there must be some tricks that you've come up with and some apps that you're using that make your life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head where, especially on the business side, it can feel like a chore sometimes, right? It can feel like, oh, it's just one more thing, and you kind of feel a pressure to constantly feel creative and constantly come up with new cutting edge ideas. And it doesn't really have to be like that. A lot of our most successful pieces of content are ones that are very spontaneous, spur of the moment. Literally, as we're talking right now, our head groundskeepers rebuilding the pitching mound on at the ballpark. And that's an incredible piece of behind the scenes content that no one gets to see, that someone else is doing all the work for it, right? We're just taking a photo. But that's the kind of content that will really do well. We do have an ongoing social media calendar on Todoist, where we constantly keep an eye on what's coming up in the coming weeks or things of that nature. What I found very helpful, and again, I know this is all very business related, but it's build that foundation with your social media schedule. Get all the stuff you have to do scheduled out there on the way, whether it's for us upcoming promotions, or just generic single game tickets. If you have that generic foundation, then you'll kind of be set, and you can build on top of that as things come. Working in baseball with a lot of small businesses, it's a lot of, you don't know what you're getting yourself into every single day. And for us to be able to have that strong foundation of, hey, I know that this post and this post is going up, but if something really cool spur of the moment comes up, we got space to fit it in, is really good. And then I
So
think above all, just real final point is keep it organic, right?
mm,
It doesn't need to be a million graphics. It doesn't need to be constant transactional. For us, showing what's going on at the ballpark on a given night, pictures of people smiling and being happy is totally worth it.
so are you using any tools to make that happen, or is it kind of just your standard stuff? I mean, what could somebody who has a Facebook account, has a Twitter account, has a Instagram account personally, and wants to start sharing more content, what kind of tools are you using that maybe will make their ability to do this easier or more streamlined?
Sure. So every single one of those platforms you mentioned have native scheduling and analytics tools already built in. So we as an organization do not pay for any special tool on the social media side or anything like that. We use stuff that already comes with the platform. On the small business side, Meta, Facebook, Instagram has an incredible Meta business suite where you've got all the analytics, all the calendar, all things of that nature. Same with X, you're able to completely schedule no matter if you've got a business account or a personal account. So, we really don't use anything special. We're just very mindful about, how often we're doing it. And I found personally, it's very easy to let multiple days slip by. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I haven't posted in weeks. So, being very mindful of that, carving out a little bit of time every day, if it is something you're passionate about and it is something that you want to build your presence on a little bit more, to just give it a little bit of time and it will pay off.
So you obviously spend a lot of time thinking about this and a lot of time doing it. What's one of the biggest misconceptions that people don't understand about social media, and that you wish as a marketer they did?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is You don't need to spend hours and hours on
Mm,
content, right? I know other people in the industry who will put in literal days of work on a video and get no payoff, right? And it's just being very mindful about what limited resources you have and how you can execute them most efficiently. Again, it's the old adage of a picture can tell a thousand words, or whatever the actual saying is.
mm,
You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to go crazy with it. Just be your authentic self, or be your
mm.
authentic brand, because that's why your fans are following you. That's why your family's, connecting with you. They want to see what your family members are doing or what you're up to. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel to get really strong engagement.
And that's a great tip, because I think so often people do think, "Oh my gosh, I have to spend all this time to get just the right wording or just the right thing done." When in reality, those posts are there for a second and then gone. And
Mhm.
it's really the visuals a lot of the time, unless you're in a text field like, X is kind of more, I said Twitter earlier, I meant X, of course, is more but even that's turning to more video and image focused. And I know that one thing that you've told me is that you don't need fancy equipment to do this
Mhm.
either, because our phones are good enough, or are way better than even we need for simple social media. And I know that you've taken some pretty cool photos. Some have been with your high end camera, but I've seen great photos and videos done with your just off the shelf iPhone with nothing extra. So maybe you could talk real quick about, what kind of equipment you use kind of day to day, getting that shot of the ballpark, or getting that, winning run crossing the home plate, when it's not your super expensive camera, or it's not the video feed from the stadium.
Yeah, I am all about the, Apple campaign, the hashtag shot on iPhone. Like you said, it is a more powerful of a tool than most people ever need in their careers, right? The cameras on these devices, the fact that, with extension or attaching an SSD, I'm able to do 4K ProRes on my
Mm,
iPhone is nicer than what I can do with our Sony Alpha
mm,
6600. That's, $4,000, $5,000, right? So absolutely leaning into the portability of it. Now, I have found that each of them have their own place, right? If for We just had a soccer match this last weekend. Yeah, I could get some incredible photos with my phone, but for those really, really high res, I just need to really punctuate what we're going for. I did bust out the Sony camera, but especially if you're just running around town, pull out your phone. I feel like in the past couple years, really since COVID, we've moved away from the you have to have thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and you really need to
mm.
invest in a gimbal and a tripod and blah blah blah. And it's a lot more common now to just pull out your iPhone and shoot, as it should be, right? These phones are so much more powerful than they used to be. They're not, your grainy, 2 megapixel images anymore. Like, they are truly high quality 4K images, and you should really lean into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that our iPhones, I mean, in my life, the iPhone is by far the best camera I've ever owned, because I've never had a full body camera. I've never been wanting to learn. I mean, I could probably figure it out, but wanting to learn how all those work. And, God bless photographers that take amazing photos on these high end cameras. But for my use, and for I think most people's use, point and shoot was the way to go. And now we're carrying around basically a studio in our pockets.
Yeah, well, and it's so incredible because, yeah, you've got your stock Apple camera app, right, which takes amazing photos, has a lot of incredible computational photography built into it, especially with HDR video, which is taking all the exposures and doing all this really fancy computing work. And you're right, you are able to get studio quality images and video straight from your phone. But if you also want to take that next level, I mean, Lightroom and Photoshop both have full service apps on iOS, right?
Mhm.
You're talking the full power of Photoshop and Lightroom in your pocket. There are pro camera apps you can lean into, whether it's the Blackmagic camera act, or DaVinci or app, or DaVinci Resolve, or even Halide is a great camera still camera app. So a lot of different options for those kind of more pro users, but you don't have to get into that. But it's a really good entry level, I find, for
Do you,
people. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you know if those are free apps or if those are free to try and then buy? I mean, I know you've shown me some cool apps over the years, and I believe most of them are free or at least free trials.
Yeah, Halide is free. They have a video app that they just released that the name is escaping me right now. But that's another one that's free with paid features. I want to say the DaVinci Resolve one's completely free, and
Hmm.
then Final Cut Pro as well. Now, if you want to get Final Cut Pro on your computer, it's like $500.
Right.
But at least the iPhone camera app itself is free as well. So very low to zero barrier to entry to get a little bit of your hands dirty with these higher end products.
And I have to imagine that if those apps, I mean, Final Cut Pro's not, but if those apps aren't available on a Android device, there are similar devices, similar apps that would work very similarly on those Android devices.
Yeah, well, and I am sure my brother Spencer is going to give me some crap for this. But that is something Android phones do really, really well, where a lot of those pro features are baked into
That's
the
true.
stock camera app. When we were on vacation a couple weeks ago, Spencer was showing me all
Mm.
these amazing features that his stock camera app could do, and I was like, man, I really wish I had access to those kind of things. So you get some of the good with the bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember seeing some of those photos that he took of the eclipse that we had
Mhm.
a few weeks ago and how amazing that was literally from his phone. So I'll try to include some links to some of those apps in the show notes after we're done here. Switching gears a little bit, I wanted to kind of talk inside baseball with you a little bit about how you're doing things at the ballpark. I mean, you work in an industry that's about fun and entertainment, and especially in the minor league ballparks, it's about the product on the field, but it's almost more about the atmosphere of being at the ballpark. What kind of tech do you use to help keep things light and engaging in your atmosphere at the ballpark?
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, it goes everywhere from the kind of visuals we have on the video board to the kind of audio we're playing to even the kind of visuals we have on our digital menu boards. Everything we do here, we try to do with the entertainment aspect in mind. So, whether that's, making sure that our on field activities are, fun and engaging, or our, graphics are easy to read up on the video board. And, if the kid you're with sees Bluey up on the video board and sees that he's coming to the ballpark, that hopefully he's turned into his parents and saying, "Hey, can we go?" So I think a lot of what we do, yeah, we've got fancy cameras and we've got great sound bites and an incredible speaker system and the whole nine yards. But it's how can we take that experience and present it to the masses, right? We kind of use the mindset of let's go ahead and make this experience so great that if you weren't here and we post about it on social media, you're like, man, I really wish I should have been. So that
Mm.
is, capturing video of every single in-game element that we do. That's, having our photographer go around taking photos and bringing it back to the having a camera in your pocket. It's the encouraging our staff that if you see a, priceless moment, if you see something that's really cool, whip out your phone, take a photo, send it to me. Let's go ahead and use our staff, of which we've got, on a lot of games, 100 plus people working
Mm.
for us at a given night to get this ballpark going. I can't be everywhere. My marketing staff can't be everywhere, but our staff as a whole can. So let's encourage everyone to help kind of focus on that common good of spreading the word of Grizzlies baseball.
A quick shout out to listeners like you who help make Your Tech Makeover possible. Your support helps keep this podcast going, and I truly appreciate it. Want to contribute? Just click the link in the show notes or visit yourtechmakeover.com. Plus, as a thank you, supporters who give $25 or more will get $25 off a one-time consultation with me to help you simplify your tech. Thanks for being part of the Your Tech Makeover community. Now, back to the conversation. So, do you have things that are uh, available to your staff? I mean, obviously you have a lot of seasonal employees. You have a lot of people that are there, the ushers, the food servers, the ticket takers, all those kind of people. Are there organization that you have so that people can send you stuff, or is it pretty much ad hoc? Because I'm thinking about how families kind of get together. I mean, again, we just experienced this on vacation where you have a group of people together and everybody's taking photos, everybody's creating media. And how do you kind of share that? So, how are you organizing those schedules, organizing shared memories that you're doing at the ballpark because you have to on a grand level, but also could be used in a home setting?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is very ad hoc in terms
Mm.
of me collecting all the data, whether I am very open with my cell phone number. Like if a staff member wants to text me something, I encourage it absolutely. Same with my email. But once I gather all of that, we do have a Flickr account, which holds every single image we have collected or taken since 2019. And those are
And that's
all
something that you
available.
manage, or is that something that is kind of public?
Yeah, it's something I manage in the sense that I upload things, but it is
Mm.
completely public, free to anyone. Our mindset as an organization, there's kind of two ways you can think about it, especially in the sporting industry, where it's, either it's my content and I don't want anyone to have it because it's my content and I want, to get credit for it, or it's the opposite of, please take it. If you want to post a photo about a Grizzlies game, go for it. Like that's what I
Mm.
want. And we advertise that link to our fans, to our players, as a kind of one-stop shop, source of truth for every single image we post. And you talk about sharing, those photos. That's so much easier than having players either DM us on Instagram or
Mm.
fans asking, "Hey, how can I get this photo?" And then you got to get their email, remember to send it to them, blah blah blah. If we have everything live in this one source of truth. And another great example, Google Photos, which you kind of
Mm.
alluded to. iCloud has
Yeah.
another great opportunity as well through the Apple's Photo app. Our program of choice for that is Flickr.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, you know, I have insight into what goes on in the Grizzlies marketing and how that all works, but maybe you can tell us about a behind the scenes technology that you use in sports marketing that the average person or baseball fan may not know about. I mean, you talked about players a little bit, which is kind of an interesting thing because your public is not only the public that walks through the turnstiles, but it's also the fans of the game and the fans of certain players. And I know that you have people coming and going from the ballpark constantly. And there might be behind the scenes tech that we don't know about because we're not in it every day, but could totally benefit from if we were using it, or at least having an idea that it was out there.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think it all starts with that organizational side of things,
Mm.
right? Whether it's your to-do list or things like that. Like, truly, I feel that that's the foundation for everything else. And kind of what we talk about during the off season is, getting all of the hard admin work done out of the way so you can do all the fun stuff during the season. And that's really where Todoist comes in, is the keeping track of all of that stuff. Some tools we use that aren't really secret per se, but are great ways, especially on the social media side, are using Instagram collaborations goes a really
Mm.
long way towards building our audiences. Not only do we have the cool opportunity of celebrating our players, but when you have, whether it's big celebrities come to the ballpark or getting involved with the Rockies or Major League Baseball, that's a really good tool we have at our disposal as well to help build our audience organically.
So talk a little bit about integrations and how that works and how somebody might use that in their everyday Instagram life.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just like tagging someone when you go to post a photo, but it's a called a you can tag them as a collaborator. And what that
Mm.
does is it gets your post to show up as if it was their post as well. So let's
Mm.
say I do a post and then I tag Frank Bravo as a collaborator. Not only will it show to my audience, it will show to your audience as well. So it's a really cool way to not only show joint partnerships, right? And show a really strong connection between you and other people, you and other brands. But it's a really good way to hit audiences that might know about you, but might not either A, be following your stuff, or B, be seeing your stuff on a regular basis.
So the person that you're collaborating with, do they have to then approve it, or how does that process go? Because it would be great if I could tag anybody and it show up in their feed, but I got to imagine there's some rules that go along with that.
Yeah, you're telling me. No, it sends the person an Instagram direct message, as well as a notification saying, hey, at the Real Jam Bravo or at Fresno Grizzlies, just sent you a collaboration request, and then you can go in and approve it or deny. What we find we get a lot of success with is if we're announcing, something big, or if we're, going to go ahead and send a request to a celebrity or a big brand or something like that, we'll have a conversation offline first and make sure
Mm.
that our post fits well in their schedule, that it is something that they're going to be willing to accept and collaborate with. One of the limitations of the platform is you can only collaborate with, I think, 5 other accounts at a time.
Oh,
So
interesting.
when we're dealing with the big announcements where we've got a lot of either local partners or different people involved, we have to be really selective about who we send those collaboration invites to. So it's the having those conversations offline first, and also gives them a heads up that they're coming. Right, people are constantly inundated with notifications on their devices, so it gives them a heads up. Hey, this is coming down the pike. Make sure to go accept it.
So do you do that with players, or is it really more the other way around? The players might bring you guys in as the collaborator in that case. Or and do you offer it up to the public? I mean, if I came out to the ballpark and took an awesome photo, posted it on my Instagram, could I then create the Fresno Grizzlies as a collaborator and get that kind of elevated to a different level?
Yeah, truly all of the above.
Mm.
We're very much about promoting our players and, helping them build their brands, especially in 2025. Their personal brand is big of a part of them as, playing for the Colorado Rockies organization. So anytime that we can help grow these guys a little bit, then, we're all for it. The other thing is a lot of these guys will come in with really established followings as well.
Mm.
So it benefits us.
Sure.
Family members and their friends and their followers want to see what their team is doing. So by having that kind of cross brand promotion, it kind of causes best of both worlds. And then your final question, yes, absolutely. We're constantly keeping an eye out for, whether it's fans, local influencers, or corporate partners sending us collaboration invites. We're all for it. The way we see it is it's more great content. We're all about, the organic content from our fans, and any way we can highlight that, whether it's in collaboration posts on Instagram, or it's sharing their posts on Instagram stories, retweeting it, or I guess sharing it on X, sharing it on Facebook. We are constantly looking for that. And that's another great point too. Yeah, maybe someone like the San Francisco Giants won't necessarily accept a collab invite, right? They've
Mm.
got a very set mindset of how they want their social media schedule to look like and all that. But small businesses, absolutely something that they're probably already looking at.
Interesting. Yeah, and not to say the San Francisco Giants may not do that, but
Right.
it's then probably not in their wheelhouse because they're generating so much content that you're right, they don't want that kind of injected into their feeds. And
Mhm.
kind of along those same lines is that there's so much out there now. There's so much happening in the community. There's so many different channels that you can see that on, and you're constantly promoting events. I mean, if it's not baseball happening tonight, which is not, I mean, not tonight, but if it's not baseball happening in a near future, it's a concert or it's a soccer game or it's something else. Or it's an event that's happening at the ballpark, that is inviting the community to come in without people having to jump through hoops to figure out the best way to keep up with these. How do you keep track of things going on in your community? And are there apps or tools that you're using so that you don't have to dig through these endless posts?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And some of it is just constant social listening. We've done a pretty good job of refining who we follow on the
Mm.
Grizzlies accounts to make sure that, yeah, as much as I would love to follow every single one of our fans and, follow tens upon tens of thousands of people, we are thankfully at a point in our social presence where that's not part of our growth strategy. So we have refined who we're following to those local community partners, people who we know are putting on big events. I think the other thing is just constant communication, either internally in our front office or with those events themselves. At the end of the day, really a lot of people's mindset here in Fresno is kind of the rising tide raises all boats, right? So
Mm.
if this person's event does well, it's good for downtown Fresno and it's good for the community as a whole. So keeping an eye out for that. We have a lot of either ticket trade partnerships or advertising trade partnerships with these events. So, whether it's us sending our mascot out there or sending them tickets to raffle off at their event, it's a really good way for us to keep an eye on everything that's happening in the community and then using that to help support our events as well.
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. So let me ask you this. We talked a lot about technology. We talked a lot about apps. What was the first piece of technology that helped you feel independent? Was it a phone? Was it a laptop? Was it something else? A Game Boy or what piece of technology growing up did you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I am totally independent, or I am independent. I'm a grown up, if you will.
Yeah, in terms of independent, probably my first phone,
Mm.
which had the slide out keyboard and was this bright red and just totally awesome with the Sprint branding across the top,
Hmm.
which would never happen today for many reasons, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's probably high up there. I mean, obviously having my first laptop was big, which was the gosh, it couldn't have been more than like a 10-inch screen, if that.
Yeah. It was
It
pretty
was
small.
in like plastic, like
Hmm.
it's fantastic. I think it still runs probably. I don't know where it is, but it probably still kicks on. So I mean that was big. Obviously, we had the old iMac in my
Hmm.
room for a while there, and then the tower before that, which was a Mac as well. But I'd say in terms of like independence, definitely that phone.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, I would have answered that same way because I think that truly gives people the independence to do lots of different things, and
Yep.
especially now. I mean, you're right. Your first phone was a slide out. You could text on it, which was cool, but I don't even think you could do MMS video or image sending on it.
I don't think you could. No, it
Yeah.
probably would have just been SMS, which
Yeah.
is a little ridiculous to think about.
I know, crazy. That was not that long ago. So,
No, I mean it
Jonathan,
was yeah,
yeah, yeah, it wasn't that long
yeah.
ago.
No.
So as we're looking to close this up, I wanted to ask you one more thing. I think I kind of know the answer to this just because you and I have talked, but for the Your Tech Makeover audience, what are 3 apps that you personally could not do without?
Oof. Are we including like stock apps as well, like messages and mail and all that?
I would
Because
say, if you could only have 3 apps on your phone,
uh-huh.
what 3 apps would be or what are the first 3 apps you would want on your phone? Maybe that's a different way, or your
Sure.
computer, because I mean,
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
often your devices are it can be either your device being your phone or your desktop computer or your laptop or your iPad. What maybe better is a category of apps. This way
Sure.
you're not targeting in on a particular app.
Yeah, definitely communications messaging apps. If we're talking about 3 specific apps, definitely the Apple Messages. Like I do so much business on a daily basis through that, as well as keeping up with friends and family and all of that. That's like truly, if that was just to disappear, I would be lost for sure. Todoist, which I keep bringing up again and again and again, just because that's what keeps me organized and sane, so to speak. I could probably, if I only have to pick 3, I could probably do away with mail. Probably my calendar app would be the other one too.
Would be the
Is
third,
that,
yeah.
that's kind of the third. That's very much as much as Todoist and my emails are tasks, my calendar is very much of what keeps me, focused in on what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So as boring as that sounds, messages, calendar, and my task manager app, that's probably the way I'd go.
That makes total sense. So Jonathan, how can somebody get a hold of you? I mean, where can we find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, as at the real JM Bravo. I am on LinkedIn as Jonathan Bravo. Just look for me in my Grizzlies gear. I'm always happy to have people reach out to me, whether it's, people interested in getting into the sports industry or just want to hear a little bit more about me and my journey. Or, again, people can email me at jmbravo at fresnogrizzlies.com, whether they're, again, interested in the sports industry, what we do here in downtown Fresno, or any bit of my journey. But I always love talking with people, especially, passionate people who are interested in, marketing or the sports industry, and look forward to people reaching out.
Yeah, and I'd encourage you if you're in the Central Valley and you want to catch a baseball game, go check out the Grizzlies at Chachansey Park. I mean, it's a great ballpark, and it's not just about the baseball; it's about the entertainment. And search Jonathan out. I'm sure he'd be happy to say hi. Jonathan, I really appreciate you being the guinea pig for this type of podcast, and we'll see if it goes. If it goes well, maybe I'll have you back again, and we can talk more technology.
No, that would be great. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for me being the inaugural interviewee. And yeah, it was fun, Dad.
Great, great. Good to see you. If you'd like to know more about technology, or if you have stories that would help make other people their technology better and easier in their life, or if you have other topics that you'd like me to cover on the podcast, please feel free to contact me at frank@yourtechmakeover.com. And so that's it for now. Thanks for joining Your Tech Makeover. And before I go, I wanted to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform so that you don't miss an episode. You could also visit yourtechmakeover.com for more details and different places to listen. And if you want to find out more about me, you can check out bravoitc.com. Until next time, I'm Frank Bravo, and this has been Your Tech Makeover.